honored to be invited back here by Dr. Herbina Aurora for the second time. She had called me the first time I had come because of my book, The Om Factor, and to talk really about how we as women can respond to situations rather than react to them, and bringing mindfulness and leadership through mindfulness into the corporate world and into our lives at the time. So, and this second time when she called me back, I came because I felt just so enamored and drawn with the energy of the women here. It has just been so phenomenal. It's just ever charging. I feel that this time I see more, and pleasantly so, more younger women that are coming in, and women that probably did not have the means to come. And I saw they were sponsored by people that were here last year. That to me, when you pay it forward like that, when you're able to bring other people up with you, and you realize that you came from somebody helping you as well, seeing that magic happen is probably what their vision was. And they call it a women's economic forum for a reason, because it brings all of us together in this Shakti Bandhan, as they talk about. Right. So what got me to write this book, this particular book, it takes 7 specific emotions that we all feel, and like anger and resentment, anxiety, feeling of overwhelm, all of these types of emotions, indecisiveness. And I've given specific mantras, affirmations, and tools that you can plug and play in the moment and use them. What brought me to write this was that I was feeling all these emotions all the time. And I started my firm 17 years ago, and when I'm closing deals or meeting with clients or dealing with people, there were always so many challenges, and I was always told, listen, go talk to your therapist, or go journal about it, or go meditate when you get home. But what do I do in the moment, And I realized I was utilizing all the tools, which brings me to my background. Both my parents are from India, and I grew up in the States, but it enabled me to use all of the teachings that I had, and I realized I was applying those same teachings in the moment. And so I started writing them down, and I noticed that as I was applying them, the entire energy shifted with whomever I was working with. If I had a client that was really causing a lot of problems, or the deal was not getting closed, I started to apply certain tools, and I noticed that the entire pattern changed. So that's what really brought me to doing this, is that I wanted to share with other women on how you can be more present in the moment and change your reality by changing your perception. It was amazing for me. I had a great childhood. However, this book also, and my life was like everybody's, is filled with tragedy. And about 20 years ago, my father suddenly died of a heart attack. He just dropped dead one day, and he was very young. And I have 2 younger sisters. And at that time, I was only 23, and my other sister was 19, and the other one was really turning 16 at the time. And he was the love of my mother's life, and he was also the breadwinner in the family, and he was in the restaurant business. And so I had to kind of step up and take over the financial responsibility at the time, and also help my mother with the emotional responsibility of things, all while I was dealing with my own grief of this incredible loss. When life gives you lemons, you have to make lemonade. So you have no choice when these things happen. So I really cherish all the teachings that I've had from him in my life, and I took those, and I was working for another company at the time, and I didn't want to leave then because I had to earn so much money, because my sister still had to go through university, everybody had to get married, all these things still had to happen. But after everything got settled, I went ahead and decided, I said, you know what? I can do this on my own. I come from an entrepreneurial family where there's that. My parents came to America with nothing. My father had not even a dime in his pocket, had nothing. And he came and he went to school at George Washington University, got his degree, became an engineer. The story is quite interesting because it was during a time of a lot of racism in the West, in Washington, which you're talking about in the 60s. And he was working for a company and passed up for a promotion. He was supposed to get promoted, and then another white American male kept getting promoted. And he just said, to hell with this. I'm going to go and I'm going to start a restaurant. And he did. And he was quite successful. And I saw that growing up. I was working in the restaurants when I was 7 years old, washing dishes, counting the money, greeting customers. And it just gave me such a push for life, such a zest and knowing on how it is to own your own business and do something. And I said, one day I'm going to do that too. Tragedy set in, and I, obviously with him passing, but he's with me every day. And now Technolink, my firm, is one of the fastest growing IT services firms in the Washington, D.C. area. We serve Fortune 500 companies as well as the federal government. And I'm just, really honored and happy to pass on his legacy. Well, completely. It is really formed, as you so eloquently said, the ethos, right? It is really formed who I am because the principles of Vedanta, the principles of the Gita, the principles on which I was brought up and taught, these are the things with which we live, right? It's not about a transaction. It's not about just me meeting you and saying hi, hello, and you go, or closing a deal and then it's finished. It's about building the relationship. It's about really being present with that person. It's about showing compassion and really expressing your gratitude. And these are the foundational things that I think that are in our teachings and how I was brought up. So it has absolutely helped me so much, And another big lesson I've learned is that never chase money. Never. It will always follow you if you follow these types of principles. And it's there are so many, right? But when you talk about the turning points that you have, when I started Technolink 17 years ago, this is bringing into Western economics, into U.S. economics, but it was in 2000, and it was the burst of the internet bubble, okay? So everybody was making money hand over fist in all of the 90s. 2000s came, okay? 2000 came. Everybody, all of the IT companies were shutting down. The bubble had burst. All the clients were gone. And that is the year that I ended up starting my company. And I didn't know that was going to happen. And when I talk about lemons and lemonade, this is when I realized, I said, listen, I can either go back now with my tail between my legs and go back to my old company who I was working for, I was making them $25 million a year, easily. And I was making quite a bit of money myself. Or I can stick with this and figure out how to shift the situation so that I can get myself ready, because there will be another economic turn. And that perseverance and that belief in myself, which my parents instilled in me, it was that moment where I sat there and I made that conscious choice. And I said, you know what, I don't care if I have to spend every dime that I have of my own personal money to keep this going. And we didn't have any revenue for an entire year. I had to live off of whatever my savings were at that time. And then after that, all of the work that we did, the groundwork at that time, by taking the time to, even though the clients were not hiring and there was no work, and meeting them, they remembered us. They said, this is the person that came, and she didn't get anything from us at the time, but I told her, listen, when the economy turns around, I'll be there for you. And sure enough that they were. So that is when you absolutely have nothing and no other option. It was a big turning point for me to make that conscious choice. I absolutely feel that a man would have probably made the choice to go back to the other company. And if he would have chosen to stay, maybe within 6 months or 4 months would have left and gone back, right? The grit, as you said it, the passion with which how we communicate our passion and with which we do things, and the perseverance with which we as women do things, and we understand that it is not just I, it is the collective we. It is the collaboration with which things are achieved. And that is where things, happen. I would want the world to be infinitely more compassionate than what it is now. I would love the world to be able to see people through their souls and not through their bank balance and not through their social stature. I would like to have all of the women like myself, where we have started to achieve things, be able to pay it backwards to the other girls and bring them up with us, so that we can, this is the time of our children. This is the time for them. So we focus on especially our young girls. My message to all women and girls is always believe in yourself. Never let the chatter, never let the outside naysayers or anybody rent space in your head for free, ever.